Hi, folks. Welcome to the session today about the metaverse. You've probably heard a lot about it, maybe too much about it in the recent past. Today, I just want to chat about, hey, what it is actually the metaverse, what isn't, and people are just abusing the hell out of it, and what it could be 10 years from now. A little bit about myself. My name is Rajavel. I'm from Chennai in the southern tip of India. I'm an electronics and computer science software engineer. I was developer for a few years, and then I came to America to study in the Bay Area, and then I've been a product manager for probably the past 10 years. And out of that, the past year and a half, I've been with Meta and Facebook. That's a little bit about me. Let's get into it. What is the metaverse? We can look at all the slides, but we can also look at an awesome video.
Except the Oasis. A whole virtual universe. People come to the Oasis for all the things they can do. They stay because of all the things they can be.
Can you feel this?
Yeah. It's the only place that...
So that's a clip from Ready Player One, an awesome movie by Steven Spielberg. If you haven't seen it, I recommend you check it out. That's like one dream and definition and aspiration of the metaverse, right? If we break that down, what are the various components that takes up the metaverse? So if you see the diagram here, on all the way in the top is immersive media. This is like YouTube 360-degree videos and other type of videos and immersive content. You can't really interact with it, manipulate it, or change it. You can only experience it. And that's been around for a while. Now, virtual reality and augmented reality on top of that, right? Virtual reality is you go somewhere like the Ready Player One trailer showed, where you go to a virtual world, where you have the strong sense of presence, like you feel like you are there in this world along with other people. And then augmented reality takes the existing physical world, and then it kind of overlays virtual content that on top of the physical world, then you can interact with and immerse yourself with, right? Augmented reality also, people call it mixed reality a little bit, MR, that gets used interchangeably. And then we have XR. XR is kind of a general term now we use for X is like a placeholder. It's for extended reality, but you can also put anything in the place of X, right? So XR is like a more generic industry term now. And metaverse is everything all encompassing, right? VR, AR, wherever you are. It's about bringing people together and having a strong sense of presence, the mutual presence, right? You feel like you're hanging out with your friends. You feel like you're spending time with your family, stuff like that. So that's kind of what the metaverse is. And there are three like very key concepts of metaverse that I want to share with you all. First is presence. Again, especially from Meta, formerly known as Facebook, our side, Facebook is big on bringing people together, always has been, and now bringing people together in the virtual world, where you can feel closer and more present with your friends, family, or even strangers for that matter, in the right social context. So presence is a key part of metaverse. And then there is the interconnectedness, where how everything comes together across companies, devices, so on and so forth. And finally, a key part of metaverse could be or should be, that's a debate, but decentralization. So let's look at each of these three big pieces of metaverse. Presence. So the question is, yeah, sure, we already spend a lot of time online, right? Take Zoom meetings, for example. We work together. How much do you actually feel present with the other person in the Zoom meeting, right? You can't really make eye contact. We kind of generally look at this grid of people and faces, but having like more, if you're in an actual physical space in a meeting, you can like lean in and talk to the person next to you in a meeting, make eye contact with them, or share a whiteboard where you're like scribbling on top of each other's ideas, blending ideas together, so on and so forth. So how do we bring presence to these kind of digital worlds where we already live in today, and the new kind of digital and virtual worlds we'll create in the future? Also, how does our brain process presence, right? For example, take a moment reading this. Um, it's believed that most people on the planet could read this, right? Because our brains actually don't need the whole word spelled out correctly, but just only directionally data on what the word is. Our brains are very good at filling in the gaps and reorganizing data seamlessly. So here, without actually, all you need is this level of accuracy for our brains to perceive the sentence. Similarly, we are trying to figure out, and many people are working on it, right? What level of detail and information and what is important for our brains to feel the presence of somebody, right? It's what are the big pictures needed, right? You don't need the entire arm. You only need sections of an arm to kind of perceive that the other person is doing something with their hands. So even in reality, when we interact with people, we don't perceive 100% of them all the time, right? You either go broad and use your periphery vision, and when something needs particular attention, then we focus on that particular person. So what presence is in what scenarios and use cases really vary a lot, and multiple people, including Meta, is figuring that out. But presence is one of the corner foundational stones of metaverse. The next is interconnected metaverses. There is really not going to be one metaverse. There's multiple companies having different type of metaverses. Some of them already exist. Fortnite is one version of metaverse or one type of metaverse world. Then we have Roblox. All the existing massive multiplayer games online are already their own kind of separate metaverses. The key is going to be, though, if we look 10 years into the future, the ability for the various companies and various devices and various platforms like iOS, Android coming together so we can connect all these various metaverses, right? We don't want, like as we have seen in the history, be it Android, iOS, or Xbox or PlayStation, not having the interconnected and the ability to seamlessly go and from one surface to another, talk to your friends in a different surface or device. That's been a huge challenge. So because in the metaverse, we are trying to avoid that. And the vision and the dream is to enable interconnectedness everywhere, right? Also, for example, a digital goods you buy in one place, a cloth or a digital car, you should be able to take it with you no matter where you go in the metaverse, right? It shouldn't matter if it's on an Oculus, if it's or on a Microsoft Magic Lens, wherever it is, you're able to move seamlessly and take things seamlessly across companies, devices, and platforms. So OpenXR is a community where all these various companies, including Meta, have come together. We're working on defining standards so that even from a developer perspective, right, a developer can create an application once, then he can send it out to all the app stores and all the devices seamlessly so they don't have to reinvent the wheel. So it's just good for the developers, it's good for the users, it's good for everybody. So multiple companies have come together to create that kind of an interconnected metaverse universe. The list is a quite interesting list. Some of the companies I'll call out here are, for example, HTC. HTC has its own headset and device to connect to the virtual reality world. Intel has a key role to play because of all the graphics processing chips that's needed to power and run the metaverse. Magic Leap is another technology where it brings metaverse to you. Microsoft is a huge player, both in hardware, especially on the business side of things. My uncle uses Microsoft devices to remotely log in and like work with people in warehouses and distribution centers and all that. He's an SAP consultant, so he does SAP deployment and upgrades. He used to travel a lot. Now he's able to just digitally do it. And then Sony, obviously, from a gaming perspective, Sony is very interested on how this overall ecosystem develops. Unity, which is a gaming engine. Unity and Unreal are like the critical components in the gaming industry, from where virtual reality and other experience are being developed as the first wave of innovation. So yeah, the interconnected metaverse is going to be very key. And the third piece of it is decentralization. So first is there is the philosophical debate of decentralization is better. What we are doing at Meta and Facebook is centralized, right? In that sense, we are building it as a company and then we are offering it to people. Now, there are various places where somebody builds it, but it's owned by the community of the blockchain itself. For example, if you take Decentraland, which is one of the places where you can buy digital land and then you can host event and parties out of it. Where you can see the autonomous organization of the decentral land, right? So people who actually do the mining and are part of that chain have decision-making power there. So it's not one corporation company owning it, but the people owning it. So I think this is a critical component of metaverse that gets a lot of people excited. It is not necessary from a very technology perspective, but it's one of the best ways of doing it. Also, the way to think about blockchains is blockchain at the end of the day is a ledger, right? It keeps a record. So you can keep record of who has which virtual land and property. And then the experiences needs to be built on top of that virtual land, right? It's just like a door. Once you open the door of that virtual land and enter a particular person's property, say Snoop Dogg has virtual land, usually a lot of like musicians and early adopters and artists and high-end brands have virtual real estate that you can go visit. But once you enter that particular address on the blockchain, then any experience can be connected to that particular place, right? It's all virtual. If you go to a physical store, if you open the door of the store, you go and you can only experience what's physically in that store. Or if you go to a physical music festival, here it's like the door is there, you open it, anything can be put inside. Experience-wise, each person could get a unique experience. We can continuously change the experience, so on and so forth. It's only limitless from there. So that's the blockchain and how virtual lands sit on top of blockchain and then experience or build on top of these virtual lands, how the whole ecosystem comes together. NFTs. NFTs are having a moment for sure. That's the board NFT that Eminem purchased. So I think today how NFTs are used is very interesting. It's mostly experimental, people trying to figure things out. But NFT at the end of the day is basically a key, right? It's like your own unique, non-fungible, there is no equivalent to it. Like cryptocurrency is fungible, right? One Bitcoin can be swapped out for another Bitcoin. It's like cash. They're fundamentally the same. $1 bill is same as another dollar bill. For all functions, it can be swapped out. Non-fungible meaning it can't be duplicated or it can't be reproduced. It's not comparable. It's only one thing unique. So it's basically like a key. So think about it. If you're buying a piece of land, an NFT could be the key to enter that particular property. So it's your personal. So any digital property you buy will be backed by an NFT. And this also goes back to what we talk about interoperability, right? Where you buy a piece of hat or a piece of clothing in one metaverse, and then using that underlying NFT identity, you can carry it to any other metaverse you go to. So I think the decentralization blockchains and NFTs are part of the infrastructure and the use cases that can be built around it. We're just in the very, very early stages, a lot to come there. So those are kind of like the three big parts of the metaverse. Now, what isn't in the metaverse? Holograms. I say that because in all the concept videos we see, metaverse looks like holograms because we don't usually show like the devices people are wearing, right? Today, the devices are a little bit big, be it Oculus or HoloLens. In the future, we're only starting at the very early stages of the metaverse tech, right? 10 years from now, they'll be much, much thinner and much, much powerful. But even then, it's not going to be this Luke Skywalker scene where a hologram is projected onto nothing and everybody can see it. So I don't think metaverse is going towards that. The second thing is, I think anything built on blockchain and all cryptocurrencies, people just started, when metaverse started catching up, they're like, everything is metaverse. Anything on blockchain is metaverse. Any cryptocurrency is metaverse. As we just discussed before, blockchain and NFTs have a role to play in the metaverse in terms of property ownership, allocation, security, and access control. But not everything on blockchain and cryptocurrency by default becomes a metaverse thing. So you can see here the example of a metaverse miner, which just took advantage of the zeitgeist of metaverse, and then tumbled down. I don't even know what their explanation still means. You can have a look at it. It just doesn't make any sense. Um, so there's a lot of hype around metaverse. I would recommend you all to be careful about the hype. Okay. So what metaverse could be? So 10 years down the line from now, I think VR, AR, all the AI ML models, our capability of just modeling information, and then all the decentralization, all of this has a huge role to play. So it really comes together on what can we do on top of it. Learn, play, work, and be together, whatever we want to do. So I think 10 years from now, we're definitely going to be spending time gaming, playing, hanging out with friends and family, whatever use case we're doing there, like events, like music events, sports events, attending events together, like various artists performing live on the metaverse, and even recently, like luxury brands having mixed experiences where you can attend a, a, a pop-up event of a particular brand, both in real world and in the metaverse world, and bring it together, and you can buy unique items, so on and so forth. So blending of the worlds coming together. Work is going to be a big piece there. Going from simple Zoom meetings to like where we can feel like we're collaborating, almost like in real world together. Learning, you can go inside anything to learn. You don't have to sit outside and learn anymore. You can go through the human body. You can go through the human mind. You can go through like electricity flow, whatever it is you want to learn. You can like dissect it apart and learn and put it back together. So the level of learning can be extremely high. And we really don't know what we don't know. Like this is like 10 years ago asking what mobile would look like. We have some idea of the direction it can go in and the fundamental differences. But what it actually will be is a multivariate, multiple paths to leading to that particular outcome. So we don't know what it will be. So that's what the metaverse could be. It's basically TLDR. We have all these tools, we have all these technical capabilities. Now we're exploring the use cases and the real world applications, how that's going to play out, and which of those will really help us is TBD. So in summary, it's basically the next version of computer and internet 10 years from now. That's what the metaverse is. In what shape it will be, we don't know, but we know the underlying components of it at the moment. How it will come together, we'll see, but it's the next version of computer and connectivity in the internet. How metaverse can build a better world? It basically just reduces a lot of limitations, right? Geographical limitations, access limitations. You don't need a complete piano. You don't need 10 different musical instruments. One VR headset or AR device can give you access to 100 different things. So just increase access to things and skills. You can learn directly from people, or like in the scenario of my uncle is literally, it's like sitting in the shoulder of somebody, right? They're walking around with a HoloLens, looking at something in a factory, and my uncle can educate them and tell them how to use it, how to configure it, how to change it. So you can just a teacher or a facilitator or an instructor can appear out of nowhere and bridge the skill gap and enable your skill, etc. So it just removes a lot of barriers and a lot of constraints we have today, so we can build a better world. And finally, what type of talent and people the metaverse needs? Well, definitely product managers. We need a lot more product managers. It's, I think, a good analogy to think about it. Whatever we need today in the web mobile world, we need that corresponding function in the metaverse too. We need product managers, we need designers, we need developers, we need legal, policy, testing, comms, marketing managers. Marketing is a big thing, right? How do you target people in metaverse? How do you make sure your brand reaches to your target audience, so on and so forth? And then how do you design things? Design is going to be huge because it just basically went from a 2D design surface to a a 3D surface of unlimited potential, and we can create anything. So design and the imagination and the creative aspects of metaverse is huge. So yeah, everything. I think we're just in the first step of the metaverse journey. So if we think about 10 years, over the next 10 years, all of these functions are needed to make metaverse very successful. So that's the summary. You can post any of your questions you have when this event is telecasted, and I will respond to them. Thank you.